16 weeks of work for this event. Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I'm the Grateful Runner. I'm here to help you on your running journey. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how I went from not running and coming back into running to running 50 kilometers. 3 days from now, I'm gonna run 50 kilometers nonstop, an ultra marathon. And when I started this, I was barely running. If you wanna know how the whole process went, stick around. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, just share with your friends. If you're not new here, you know that I signed up for a 50 kilometer run in February, 16 weeks ago. In February, I chose to start a 16-week running plan for a 50K ultra marathon that is happening in 3 days now. So it has been 16 weeks. We are at week 16 out of 16 of this program. The reason why I chose 50 kilometers is to push my limits, and also because I was really focused on pace and speed, and I knew that a really long distance, I had to slow down to complete it, and I had to put my ego aside, and I knew that there would be a lot of work on myself. And also I was just curious, how do people run so far, The original story is back in 2021, I was a really big runner. Like I thought I was a really good runner. I thought I was a serious runner, but turns out that I was overtraining and under fueling. My biggest weeks were like 25 kilometers a week, and that would have me exhausted because I only did tempo runs and I only did high intensity, and I didn't have enough rest or nutrition to go with it. So I did some research, and because I wanted to get back into running, and I was like, I can't have that kind of lifestyle and be exhausted all the time. I have a job, I have school, I have plenty of other things happening. And so I found out about Maffetone training, Zone 2 training, low heart rate. I found Floris Gierman's podcast, all the shebang, everything. And I said, I'm gonna try a Zone 2 workout and see like an easy run, right? We hear about them all the time, but I never really took them easy. So let's see if I really take them easy and do like 220 minus my age. And then I calculate about 60 to 70% of that for me. And that was around 140 BPM. So I tried to stay under that. And for that first run, I did 10 minutes 24 per kilometer. So I walked like 85% of the time, and that was humbling, but it also felt really good. Like it felt amazing. And if you want to know about all the benefits from Zone 2 low heart rate training that I've been doing, I have a video on that, 3 months of progress. Go check it out. Now I'm roughly around 840 per kilometer, so that's gone down significantly, as expected. I am trending in the right direction. It's still not where I would like it to be, but I was able to run the longest distances in my life on this plan. So this was 16 weeks, and I'm gonna divide it in 3 portions. The first one being the first couple of weeks that I had on this plan, and that was in the winter when it was really cold. I live in Canada. I live in Montreal, Canada. So in the winter, it gets cold, it gets snowy, it's freezing, and I'm not used to running in cold. So that was the first challenge to overcome, but there is no bad weather, there's only bad equipment. So I got equipped and I was ready to go. I sometimes did like 2-hour runs in the snow and I was not cold. So seriously, gear up because there is no bad weather. The first few weeks, amazing. I had so much energy. I ate a lot more than usual, and my runs weren't like intimidating distances. They were 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers. Long runs were like 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers. So I had already ran those distances and I was very familiar with them. So that was amazing. And when I first started, I had no ego. Like my easy runs, I ran easy. I ran 130, 140 BPM on average. They were slow, but they worked. I also had 1 interval session or a tempo and a long run. Basically, I had 3 runs a week. I felt so great that in the building blocks, the first few ones, I was in like the 20-25 kilometer range, but sometimes I pushed it to 30. Sometimes I added a couple runs. You'll see like 1 kilometer push. I did a 2 kilometer push. I went for like just a quick run one morning, and I had no pace. I had no planning, no structure. I just did it. I just went out the door and I ran because I was on a rest day, but I wanted to run, so I ran. So you saw me adding extra runs here and there, extra workouts here and there, so I felt really good. I had a lot of energy. And then that's when the second part of this video is coming in. We have the kind of middle of the program type of deal, where long runs are getting longer, over 20 kilometers. We're talking half marathon distances once a week. We're talking 25 kilometers, we're talking 26, 28. And then that's when I had a 32-kilometer run, and then I had to break 30 kilometers. That was the most daunting run so far in the program, where I was like nervous. I just had finals week where I was exhausted, sleep was bad, stress levels were really high. My grandmother passed away, so that was a big stress for me too. And I remember just like having poor sleep and having like really big training blocks, and it was hard. And I got sick. I got really sick and I got injured because I had modified my running form. I'm typically more of like a mid-foot striker, but I'd modified it to a forefoot strike, which puts a lot more stress on the calves. My body's not used to that, and I ran a half marathon at the start of the program. The first few weeks where I was feeling amazing, I used RPE for my reference. So it wasn't a pace, it was based on how I felt, so it was different every day. I switched back to pace training, and that's when things got wrong. I changed my running form and I turned to pace training, which basically Runna had me run really fast with a running form that's not familiar to my body. So I had a half marathon and I had a PR that day, but I've never had so much pain in my legs in a run in my entire life. I thought they were gonna fall off. I thought they weren't there anymore. Like, they were so painful. I didn't even have a feeling like I had legs anymore. They were supporting me. Like, I just wanted to be done. And typically at the end of a really hard session, a really long run, the pain in my legs kind of, you know, it goes away and it's fine and it's just temporary. But that time there was just this pain behind my knee that wouldn't go away for a couple days. So I was like, should I call my physical therapist again? I'm gonna wait out a couple days and see how it goes, because I knew that I had that 30 kilometers. I had 32 kilometers, so I knew I had to break the 30-kilometer barrier a week later, and I was scared and stressed, and I rested for like 2-3 days. Don't do that. And then I had an easy run, so I did a 5K easy run to test out, you know, how it felt. And I remember on social media I posted a story like, oh, I'm fine, you know, I didn't feel it. I felt it. I want to say after that 5K easy run, it was like at a 5 out of 10. I had to stop and walk to make it more bearable. I was glad to be home after 5K, and I was like, tomorrow morning I gotta run 32 kilometers, so maybe it's gonna be fine. I ran the 32 kilometers, so the first part, you know, first 10K, amazing, fastest split ever, no pain, a little bit of discomfort, but it was fine. And then I got to 12 kilometers, and somehow the pain went from like 0 or 1 to like 7 out of 10, out of nowhere, just behind my knee right there. And every step of the way it was like so much pain. I remember, like, this is one of the big character building experiences that I had on this plan, is that I ran that run without music, which is something I do now. I run without music, with just my thoughts and nature. I remember telling myself, because my feet started to hurt around 15 kilometers, right? Like, just feet pain, normal, like time on feet, normal pain. I know I'm able to endure it very well, so I thought, you know, focus on your feet. You know, that's normal. And the knee pain will go away. It'll go away. It'll go away. It'll go away. Just repeating that, and it kind of went away. And then around 25 kilometers, that's when the calf said, hello, I want to leave the conversation. And it was so painful, yet it wasn't as painful as that half marathon I'd done. And I finished with a 5-kilometer tempo run, because I was like, the sooner you do that, like the faster you go, the sooner it's over, the sooner you can eat. I thought about the food, and I did it. I did my 32K long run, but then I really, the second I had a shower and a bite of food in me, I was literally eating my pasta and I called my PT. I was like, I need an appointment. I don't know what's wrong. It really hurts. And the week after that, I had a 38-kilometer run, so I need help. Turned out I went to the PT. He said, you know, it's a tight hamstring, so he gave me hamstring exercises to strengthen it. We were still working on calves. We were doing a lot of calf exercises because I knew from the start I was weak from that area. The calf pain was basically it just left. I think it was from the different running form that I had. So I switched back to my midfoot strike, and I did the 38 kilometers. I was very nervous. I remember I posted, I'm nervous about this run, but also excited. I have no expectations, and we agreed with my PT to do like shorter 13-kilometer loops instead of a like 40K kind of route. So that way I could assess how I'm feeling every 15 kilometers or so. And I did it, and I felt amazing, and I just had like fatigue in my leg, but nothing too concerning, no like injury pain. And I remember that particular night, I came home, I ate, I drank, I sat on the sofa with my feet elevated. You know, a couple hours into the evening, I had no more pain in my leg, and I think it was the day after, or like I think the next day, I was ready to go for an easy run. You know, I didn't go for a run, but I could have. So that was amazing in terms of recovery. I had no injuries. I had no pain anywhere. So smooth sailing for the 38 kilometers, where I ended up doing a marathon distance run. So that was great. And that was the peak run. So that was like the biggest week for me. I started around 20 to 25 kilometers per week. Then in the middle, that was like 30 to 40 kilometers. And then the last couple of weeks, it was like the last peak week, it was like 55. And now we're on to the third part of the video, where the last few weeks. If you're into distance running and marathon training and ultra training, you know that at the end of a peak week, you get taper, which could be like 1 to 3 weeks depending on the distance of the run or the race. For me, that's 2 weeks. So it's the last 2 weeks of the program. I had tapering week last week, where I had a little more runs, you know, a 12K long run, an 11K tempo, and another run. That was great. I did feel exhausted. I did feel really tired from the training, and I felt like I needed recovery. But I did sleep amazing. Like, my sleep right after that physical therapist appointment, my sleep went back to normal, and I was able to absorb training a lot. So that was nice. Now we're in the final week, and it's the last tapering week. I had 1 tempo interval session, and I have a strength session that I have to do, and I can feel the recovery, and I'm trying to sleep a lot more, and I'm running in 3 days, and I'm super excited. So that's kind of the energy that you want from a runner before a race. I'm ready to go, and I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I wish I could go run, and I have so much energy. I end up doing like bike sessions and swim sessions, recovery training, cross training, walking. I move a lot, but like with really low impact, really low intensity, and I'm feeling really good. I do recommend the app Runna, but if you're gonna run with it, for me, RP works better, and 3 runs a week, because in that middle section I also upgraded to 4 runs a week, and my body did not like that. Combination of the running form that I'd modified, the intensity, like 4 runs a week, the volume was just too much, and I had a lot of stressors in my life at that moment, so big training was probably not the right thing to do. But overall, I survived it, and overall I'm feeling great, so I would recommend it. I also want to talk about strength training, which is super important when you're trying to do running, whether it's a 5K PB where you need a lot of explosiveness, a lot of power, or a 50K, 60K, 50 mile or whatever. You need that endurance in your muscles to be able to keep going. It's not only the cardiovascular capacity, but also the strength training. So at first, when I started, I had 2 to 3 sessions. It was 1 hour session a week. I was very religious about that. I also had mobility for the first few weeks, and then I took that out because I just stretch out and I don't need like a guided mobility thing. In the middle, it was more like 1 or 2 sessions and 45 minutes. And then at the end, I was just like, I don't want to spend 2 to 3 hours of my week in, you know, at the gym, and I feel like I have a lot of strength in me, and I did the PT exercises, I kept those through, kind of took them out of my schedule from Runna, and now I've transitioned more into like 30 minutes physical therapy exercises. So that's more what I'm doing. Thinking about keeping the impact low, keeping the intensity really low for the taper. And I'm definitely very excited to get back to strength training more seriously after the 50K. It's just that I had 8 to 10 hours of running a week to do, and I was like, well, I'd rather do 30 minutes of strength training rather than 2 hours. In terms of what's next for me, I haven't announced it yet on Instagram or social media, but after the 50K, I am going to be training for Montreal's Benevaz half marathon, and yeah, part of me wants to go for a sub 2 hour PB, and part of me wants to just enjoy it and live my first ever race experience, because I've never like went to an event. So that's gonna be really fun, and it's a big marathon, big half marathon event, so there are lots of people, lots of good vibe. I am so excited to do this, and I know this is like a shorter, like, I know half marathon can seem so big, but once I will have done 50K, I think the half marathon will be like so simple in my mind and less daunting. So that's part of also why I chose 50K. I would definitely recommend the 50 kilometers distance to someone who's kind of already familiar with running 5K, 10K, you know. It can be a lot of fun, especially for base building, because you have such long runs that you kind of have to keep the intensity low for a major part of that run. So you need to include zone 2, you need to include base building for that endurance. So if you're looking to build your endurance and really work on that base, a long distance like 50 kilometers, which is the shortest ultra, and I'm definitely looking into more ultras after this, but in a while. I really want to build my base and make sure I have a strong aerobic fitness, and then I'll go conquer some of the longer ultras. I definitely have that in mind. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you check out the running playlist and subscribe, and also go check out my social media. Everything's linked down below. Hopefully, I will see you in the next video.